So we're talking today. The MIT Sloan Magazine Review and Boston Consulting Group have together published a report, the title of which is "To Be a Responsible AI Leader, Focus on Being Responsible." And perhaps before we look at the report's findings, it would be good if you can give us a definition of what responsible AI is.
Very, very happy to do that, Philip. So we define responsible AI as really as a framework of processes, principles, tools that ultimately help AI systems to be robust, safe, and really help with that individuals, society, to get to the transformative business outcome that we want to generate with those. Because as you and I know, AI is everywhere at the moment. So really the business community is up there, wants to use it more and more. But how we protect us as human beings from becoming ultimately, the victims of AI, for me, that's the core of what responsible AI stands for. And it's, from my perspective, a bit broader than other terms that we hear in the market, right? You hear ethical AI, you hear explainable AI, you hear sustainable AI, and all of that, I think, encompassing is responsible AI. So ultimately, how do we use and bring AI systems to the most transformative use for humankind and human beings?
Okay, and the report, one of the main findings of the report is that I think the vast majority of people you talk to, executives, believe that responsible AI should be sort of high on the management agenda, but only a quarter of organizations have any kind of what you call meaningful RAI program in place. So just some thoughts as to, there's a high interest, not maybe much implementation. Why the disjoint? Is it just because we're early in this new topic, or is there more going on?
I think there's, yes, of course, AI still is new to a lot of organizations, right? So of course there's, it's in the media. I mean, we're talking about it. So of course people are really interested in utilizing AI, and more and more people think about, okay, well, what does that mean to me? What does it mean to me as human capital, basically working in this environment? What do I do to this environment in the future? So the 1,000 executives that we surveyed for that report clearly indicated that they believe thinking about what AI can do for us and being responsible with that AI is critical. And as you mentioned, 84% of them thought it's really, really critical, should be part of top management. What we also found, as you rightly stated, is there's different levels of maturity in organizations. Some of them really have gone very, very far. A very, very small part of those 84%, so only 16% roughly, would claim that they have an AI program that is all encompassing, where they cover all the various aspects of governance within the organization, of how to make the system secure, how they comply with regulatory requirements ultimately, and very, very clearly basically all the others are on their way there, from basically having nothing and just reacting if something goes wrong, towards a more kind of formal processes, governance structures around there. Why is that? I think it's really a maturity curve, right? A lot of companies are at the beginning of that journey. We believe they should focus more on our AI before they start the AI journey, because ultimately they can realize more business benefits, but they can also clearly, not fail, which we see in, unfortunately, a lot of other cases.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because I think the report highlights that about, I think, 25% of organizations you talk to have experienced some kind of AI failure. And I'd be interested first if you had any sort of input as to what levels, were from maybe relatively trivial to, I don't know whether there are any sort of real major catastrophes. But that emphasizes, I guess, the fact that there is a significant AI failure, that responsible AI, which hopefully will minimize the impact of those failures, the importance of it can't really be overstated. Is that right?
Yes, totally. And as you say, the failures in the report is failure. So we didn't quantify what exact failure that was. It was catastrophe or basically, just a program that got delayed because regulations were found out later on in the process. But clearly, if you think about the majority of at least the larger organization, they spend a lot of money actually developing those AI programs, and to put them then out in the market, find out either close to going to market, that you are not basically not allowed to do that. So the risk and compliance aspect is of course a major failure, major business impact in terms of the money, the resources that you spend on all of that. So being ahead of that curve by having people, a governance structure that is actually looking into this very early on in the process, clearly helps those organizations not to run into those issues. Even worse if they're out in the market, right? I mean, there's examples from, well, won't name names, but from large companies who've put stuff out there in the wild, in the open, and then had to basically stop everything, apologize in public about things that they've done with AI. And we believe a lot of that could have been caught early on if there would have just been people with the right mindset, with the right thinking about what they can do, to not run into those issues. Yeah, and I mean, clearly for me, the number even of the 30% that people in that survey said we had major issues with this is already indicating that likely there's even more, because all the other people that we didn't interview, because the level where we interviewed were like executives of medium and larger size companies, and I'm sure there's a lot of boutique shops out there that have even more issues there. So clearly there's a lot of in a sense there's a lot of ground to cover on the failure side.
Yeah, and maybe, I mean, it may be related to failure or not, but I'm just thinking more generally in terms of starting responsible AI implementations or improving them. I mean, the IT industry generally is, it's a common problem, lack of skills, but is that particularly pertinent because obviously AI is as we've discussed, an emerging, so a new topic. So is there just not enough people with the right knowledge sets, which is causing potential failures, or at least slowing down the adoption of responsible AI?
I think it's a bit of similarity to IT, yes, in scarcity of talent in general. So if you look at at the core of AI are data scientists, right? Some people need to do that program, the stuff. So kind of they're hard. And in the last I would say 5-7 years, this market has exploded, and there's just not enough people basically to do the core. So therefore, scarcity of those resources is very clearly similar to the IT industry. What I think makes this even more complex is you need to have people from the legal team, from compliance, from risk, from basically culture. So how do I set up a responsible culture in my organization? And all of that, kind of bring those together, which also aren't readily available with that AI training, if you want. So with the mindset of what can I do with AI and what can go wrong with AI. Even specialists in, say, data privacy, which of course is a big topic in this whole kind of compliance and regulatory framework, aren't necessarily readily available here. So it's for me it's almost amplified what we see in on the IT side within the AI space more general, but responsible AI very specifically is suffering the most, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, and you've referenced a couple of times, and the report draws a distinction between responsible AI leaders, and I think you just said it's leaders and non-leaders. I say, as we've talked, you've referenced something, but are you able to give us a sort of definition of what a responsible AI leader would look like, and some of the things that maybe the non-leaders are struggling with, or haven't yet got to grips with?
Yeah. In a sense, the way we did that in the report, to go there first and then go a bit like broader in the industry. So basically, we have two main dimensions where we say, well, one is scope. So basically, what principles, what policies, what governance structures, and so on have you implemented? So that's kind of one dimension. The other one is the scale. So is this just something that happens ad hoc in some pocket in your organization? Is this some partial piece, if you're a global organization, kind of within that, let's say, specific unit, or is it really enterprise-wide? You've established kind of all these procedures, those policies, those governance structures, and so forth. So if you look at let's say real-world examples, some participants of our panel, which I can name, I guess, are H&M, Salesforce, Com, and others who are already going very, very deep. So I would say they are likely more in the leader quadrant. So they have established the governance structure. They have departments really that are taking care of that. Any AI implementation is well managed, handled in a responsible way, and it goes across the entire enterprise, not just a small part of it. So that would be what we consider the leaders, basically, who have established best practice all over the entire organization. And then, of course, from there, there's a band of companies that are by far not there yet. So some have really basically nothing. Only when they run into an issue, they call whatever they're the legal department or risk officer or whatever they have in the organization. And that's kind of in a sense, well, the very early followers, if you want. But clearly the distinction, the leaders are in this kind of, call it the top quadrant, where they implemented all the right policies, governance structures, and so on, and have done this enterprise-wide. So that's how we would define those leaders there.
Okay, and clearly no one's doing AI and responsible AI, just for the sort of good of their health. There are sort of commercial benefits for doing it. So did the report uncover, or again anecdotally, can you outline some of the reasons why people are doing it, and what benefits they're seeing from it?
Yeah. So one, of course, as you said, I mean, AI can be anywhere, right? So I mean, from driving autonomous cars to, I don't know, assigning the right drugs in a more kind of online manner and other stuff. So to say the benefits that an organization gets clearly are multiple, are enormous in that space. What we saw with the leaders in the report, they clearly indicated, or 41% of them, to be precise, indicated they had three main benefits that they say from having responsible AI versus just implementing AI. And one is clearly better products and service. So while they thought about kind of how they could implement this, what governance they would need, what they would do, and what they wouldn't do, basically they came up with better solutions. They had products that stuck in the market much better than others. Second, clearly being responsible as an organization and putting this out there also helps with your brand reputation. So clearly they saw the business benefit of being very, very clear what they would do, what they would not do with AI, be clear about that with their candidates. So on the recruiting brand, it really helped them, but also on the product side, when they were developing digital products, of course, that utilized AI and marketing that also as done in a responsible way. They got much more market traction. And the biggest one, so even more percent of those leaders said it really helped them accelerate innovation, because what it does ultimately to you to have a responsible AI structure, governance, everything, is that one, you don't run into this like last mile issue where you find out, okay, I can't actually do that. But for people to know exactly these are the processes, these are the steps I need to follow, they can be much faster. They don't need to think about whom do I need to ask, where are the people that eventually have a say in this in my organization. So it's much, in a sense, faster and quicker. And as an example, for ourselves in BCG, there's very clear advantage of having that structure implemented for ourselves, because our consultants, of course, are out there. If any case they are doing any AI project, would need to figure out what can I do, what can I not do, whom do I need to ask for advice, for help on regulatory requirements or ethics. It would take them forever. With a clear structure, process, governance in place, it's very easy, very fast for them. So we definitely see ourselves as being in that camp of having this advantage through responsible AI internally.
Okay, and in terms of, I mean, we're talking about AI, and as you pointed out a minute ago, it's a huge topic. There are all kinds of things that come under the broad heading of AI. So I'm just wondering, when you talk to your executive, did you do any differentiation between different types of AI and mission critical as opposed to nice to have? And I'm also wondering, therefore, for organizations, I mean, when it comes to responsible AI, do they just literally implement that company wide, or do they maybe prioritize sort of the mission critical apps? There may be the real customer facing ones where if something goes wrong, it's a big issue and embarrassment, and maybe I won't say ignore, but perhaps have a less rigorous, if it's for internal stuff. Just thoughts as to different types of AI and whether responsible AI is a one size fits everything, or you grade it according to the type of AI.
Yeah, but I think there's let me be blunt. I think we cannot ignore certain, even kind of seemingly low impact systems, right? So clearly, I mean, you need to attach a business value to the risk that you want to take and all of that. But at least what we believe, if you implement responsible AI in an organization, it should cover everything. So whether you're developing, I don't know, apps to do loan optimization, or whether you're doing something, an AI system that drives autonomous cars for you, or whether you're developing let's say an optimizer in the end for let's say a data center for cooling, for whatever, you could argue, well, that's responsibility on the cooling side is maybe not so relevant. But if you say, well, environmental aspects of this, if I do more or less at certain times and so on, I would argue there is an aspect of responsibility in there as well. So from my perspective, and I'm sure my colleagues would second that, responsible AI is not just focused on the kind of high value, high risk area, because that ultimately is where a lot of organizations fail. If they just say it's on the high risk, high exposure side, and everything else we kind of ignore. On the side where we typically ignore is where we run into the risk, where we run into the issues that we don't do that. And clearly to generate those business benefits, like the 41 that said we have business benefits, they really could only realize it because they were looking at this holistically and not just in kind of small niche pockets. Can you start there? Of course, it's a journey, right? So if you want to start, do this, but the end game, the end goal for this needs to be the all-encompassing system, governance, people, processes, culture in the organization. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe sort of as we're finishing, do you think most organizations do understand the importance of responsible AI, but it's just a question of, the journey to get there, to implement it, as we discussed, sort of across the company? Or are you worried that, the hype around AI, everyone's getting very excited about it, and a lot of perhaps too many companies are just rushing into AI and then going, whoa, that didn't work, or we've gone and upset a load of our customers or whatever. So just the landscape as to how people are approaching responsible AI more generally, in terms of the consequences if things don't work as anticipated.
I think there's a high risk that companies do exactly that, as we saw with all the failures that companies ran into. Clearly, at the moment, there's more focus on getting AI out of the door, use it, be there. But clearly, we believe, and the survey clearly indicated that is the case, not just a belief that we or MIT would have. Is that if you implement RAI ahead or if you implement responsible AI framework, structures, processes, everything ahead of your AI implementation, you're clearly better off. And it's typically a 2 to 3 year journey to really get all the governance and processes in place that you can really have them at scale enterprise wide. So you better start soon if you're trying to implement this across the board. You mentioned earlier on that resources clearly will be an issue. Finding the right people, establishing that culture in your organization, that people really understand what they're doing, what they maybe shouldn't do. It will take time. Yeah. So clearly, the goal for any responsible leader in that space should be start with the RAI side. Bring at least parts of that governance, everything into the most critical parts of your organization, and then do the coding, do the part that actually generates the AI, and not the other way around.
Okay, I promise this is the last question, but in terms of people's expectations or reasons behind implementing AI and then expectations of it, do you think most organizations now understand, again, in the early days, I think the suggestion was, implement AI and you can get rid of a load of humans, etc. But there seems to be a growing understanding that AI and humans combined in some shape or form is the best possible solution. Do you think, again, most companies understand that, or do you think a lot of them are still thinking, oh, if we get AI in here, we can get rid of a load of people in a call center or whatever it happens to be? Just thoughts about that.
It's a very good question, Philip. I think for me, I'm sure there's some organization that thinks this, right? It's all about efficiency and productivity, which is another reason, actually part of the RAI definition as we see it is it's not about replacing human capital. It's really about making sure that AI works in the better or in the betterment of mankind, if you want, helping us, supporting us where that makes sense. Will we, of course, have a shift in labor force of people who know, understand, can work with AI systems or even develop those AI systems? Of course, there will be an impact, no question. But really, from a responsible AI perspective, the goal cannot be to replace humans completely, right? I mean, that's not the idea, and shouldn't be in any of the systems.
Okay, well, it's been brilliant to chat to you, and you shared some great insights. So, Stephan, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip, and thanks for having the opportunity. And we'll talk soon.